The bill itself needs serious work, both in terms of the certification requirements on teaching, the lack of flexibility in it, the supplemental services and how they're applied, the annual yearly performance standards, and the goals. What are we trying? What is this supposed to produce at the end of it? I mean, we're all talking internally about it, and not many questions being raised. What does this get you in the end? So I don't. In fact, I like the idea of accountability. I like the goals of it, but the lack of funding for it and allowing for a better way to determine success and failure is very much needed here. I've also written something called voluntary national standards, and I've emphasized the word voluntary because you know the trouble you get into if you talk about mandatory national standards for math and science. Because I realize that the debate about the language arts could go on for decades in terms of what is a standard. But in math and science, it's easier to get to an agreeable set of standards. It's been endorsed by both the National Education Association and the National Association of Manufacturers, two groups that not normally get together on much. But it's offering some real financial help for people, states that would be willing to accept the national standards, and a break on the annual yearly performance side so that they have a chance to reach it. One of the problems has been with No Child Left Behind is states did what was predictable. Rather than have failing schools, they've just lowered the bar on their own tests and standards. So you have the absolutely opposite effect of what the goals of that legislation were. With the exception of about 4 or 5 states, they're really declining those standards. And so we're getting exactly the opposite of what we bargained for. Put aside the cost issues and so forth with the legislation. So the math and science become very important in my view because of the critical components that are for competitiveness economically. But I would like to see us do more. I'm an advocate and supporter of universal preschool. I authored the first child care legislation with Orrin Hatch back in the early 80s, since World War II, as a national program, the No Child Left Behind, the Child Care Development Block Grants. I've been very involved in Head Start, early child development issues. I would like to see more language training early on for students. I was one of the few people that spoke a second language until the arrival of Mel Martinez and Ken Salazar and others. I mean, this idea that we're tongue-tied as a country is very worrisome to me. The fact that we don't have a lot more emphasis on issues that are going to really determine whether or not we can continue to compete globally are going to make a major difference, and we're falling behind, and the disparities are huge.